TitleMatchNetwork.com.
You know, that was okay once in a while. I mean, I thought for the Mexicans, what you should do is they brought in 12 guys a night. You should bring in 2 guys and bring in 12 hoods. They all look the same, just switch them.
Right.
Let them do interviews so no one's going to ever know who they are anyway. How many times can you hit a fat guy with a garbage can that don't hurt?
Right.
How many times can you beat a guitar over a guy's head and nobody's hospitalized? I mean, there's some things they did that's just ridiculous. Yeah. I was always brought up, when you hit a guy with something, do something,
he's out for
make it mean it.
Right.
Yeah. Or don't do it. But
who do you feel is single, like, well, who was the main person for the downfall of WCW if you had to single out one person?
it has to be whoever was in charge, and it has to be Bischoff or Dr. Harvey Scheller. Whoever said, okay, we'll do that. We'll beat Goldberg. We'll give this guy $8 million to do nothing. We'll pay these guys $500,000 for 10 years. Stay home. Whoever made those decisions did it.
Do you think that was Bischoff's decision?
I don't know.
No.
I do not know. It wasn't his money. It was Turner's money. I don't think Ted knew where his money was. It was AOL's money. It was Time Warner. Who knew? It was hard to tell.
Or the politics like backstage at WCW with Eric
There
Bischoff
wasn't.
and Hogan and the Nash faction.
Well, you see, I was in the announcer's room. They were always in their room with signs on the door. Do not enter. And they had Donuts Dillinger at the door watching it, so no one would... You know what he did as a cop?
What's that?
He was a cop in
Charlotte. Yeah.
You know what he did?
No.
He drove the motorcycle at the funerals.
Oh.
What a danger there. They're dead.
Yeah.
And they're crying. And there's flowers.
Right.
No problem. He drove the motorcycle at funerals. No security. How many times you see guys jump in the ring? But we had signs on the doors, do not enter. So I don't know what went on in Hogan's room or anybody's room like that. I know from Hogan, Hogan always tried to do the most he can for himself and the boys in the business. There's a lot of jealousy there. So whatever went on in that room, I don't know about. And no one would tell us, no one wanted to talk about it, and no one cared. It was at that point, at our level, no one even cared what was going on. We just wanted to get done at 11 and go home. It was just a complete bore.
Were you ever asked to return to managing in WCW?
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't want to do it?
No.
Who did they want to put you with?
They didn't say, but they didn't know how to use wrestlers. They weren't going to use me. Plus my neck. I didn't want to bother with that anymore.
Right. How did things change when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash came into the company?
Business improved. Business was really good. I think Scott Hall was a heck of a talent. I think he had some bad advice from some bad people he hung with. But Scott Hall could still be a big player now with WWF. Used the right way. He's not a bad guy. He just gets bad advice from some bad people.
Right.
And Nash was just a big guy. Nothing special. But Hall had charisma. He had...
Right.
When he did the toothpick thing. He didn't like doing that. I told him, I said, just keep doing it. Throw it right towards the camera. He used to do it like that. I said, no, do it like that. He said, well, does it look? I said, don't worry about it. He had no confidence. Then finally he got confidence. Scott Hall he'd be a heck of a talent. But he has to be produced and controlled.
Speaking of you giving advice to guys, did any of the younger guys ever approach you with ideas or trying to seek advice from you?
Yeah, some guys would always ask me. I always try to help anybody. But like I told them, I said, this may work for me, may not work for you. And I just told them the logic of it. Whenever you're involved in a match or managing or on air or whatever you're doing, pretend you're doing it for real. And it'll work. I mean, when I managed the guys, I pretended I owned them. I had an investment. When I was in that ring, this guy was going to kick my butt. And what would I do? What would I do if you came after me with a board? Would I shake hands? I'd beg, please don't. I'd pull a ref in front of me. I would do everything imaginable to save my hide.
Right.
It's simple. I was just going to take off a year and do nothing. I just wanted to take off a year. I was tired after 30-some years. And WCW called me and made me an offer, so I took it. And the only reason I did was to be closer to my kid. That's all. Had nothing to do with WWF. I mean, WWF was here. WCW's.
Right.
I mean, it's like playing T-ball to the Yankees.
Mm.
I mean, there was no comparison. It was a very poorly run company.
I guess, how were you initially approached by WCW?
I was home and I got called to do the Sunday night show. Eric Bischoff called me. I said, sure. So I came in. He gave me an offer. One price to do one show. And then when Jesse quit, I started doing Jesse's stuff. So he gave me a raise to do that. He gave me 3 raises. So I had no trouble with Eric. He wasn't the brightest guy when it comes to wrestling. But he gave me 3 raises. So he said, okay.
What were your initial thoughts of Eric Bischoff as a person and stuff?
Eric Bischoff was a used car salesman that just happened to be involved in wrestling.
How would you compare him and Vince? Or is there no comparison?
Walmart, Neiman Marcus. I mean, there's no comparison. There really isn't. First,
How did you find out that the WWF was buying WCW?
Somebody called me and told me. I knew it was going to happen. I knew somebody was going to buy it because it was going no place. There was no management there or nothing. And I figured if Vince bought it, the only reason he'd buy it was just to own the tapes.
Right.
There's no other reason. Now they're using the underneath guys. It don't work. I'm sorry, I don't think it works. And that keeps me from getting a job at WWF. Tough. That's the way I feel.
TitleMatchNetwork.com